I'm Bonnie. 3 weeks ago, I got married in a beautiful vineyard in Napa Valley, far away from the drama of my hometown. The wedding was perfect, a dream come true, but my parents weren't there. As I stood at the altar, looking into the eyes of my husband, Lucas, I felt a sense of peace and freedom. But it wasn't always like this. Let me take you back a few months. I'm a senior analyst at a tech startup in San Francisco. I've worked hard to get where I am, and I'm proud of my achievements. I have a great apartment with a view of the city skyline, a healthy savings account, and zero debt. But growing up, my family never seemed to see my worth. My parents, Henry and Grace, live in a small town in the Midwest. Dad is a retired schoolteacher, and Mom works part-time at the local library. They're decent people, but they've always had a traditional view of family. My older brother, Jake, is 33. He's the golden child, the one who can do no wrong. He's a successful real estate agent and married his high school sweetheart, Emily, 5 years ago. I still remember the day of Jake's wedding. It was a grand affair, held at a fancy country club. My parents spent $150,000 on it, inviting relatives from all over the country. There was a live band, a 5-course meal, and a huge ice sculpture. Mom kept bragging about how much they'd saved for this day, saying it was what parents do for their children. I stood in the corner, watching them celebrate, and I thought, when it's my turn, they'll show me the same love and support. 2 years ago, I met Lucas at a tech conference. He was representing his law firm, Thompson and Associates. We hit it off immediately, and before I knew it, we were in a serious relationship. Lucas is 35, a partner at his firm. He's smart, kind, and has a quiet confidence that I find incredibly attractive. But what I love most about him is that he truly listens to me. Last year, on a cold winter night, Lucas proposed to me on the rooftop of our favorite restaurant. The city lights twinkled below, and he presented me with his grandmother's ring. I said yes before he even finished the question. The next morning, I called my parents, my hands shaking with excitement. "Mom, Dad, I have amazing news," I said. Lucas proposed, and we're engaged. There was a moment of silence on the other end, and then Mom let out a squeal. She sounded genuinely happy, and I heard her calling for Dad. "Henry, Bonnie's getting married." For a brief moment, I thought things were going to be different. Mom asked about the ring, and Dad asked about Lucas's job. They sounded proud, and Mom said, "We'll support you, honey, just like we did for Jake. We'll help with the wedding." That night, I received an email from Mom. It read, "Bonnie, your father and I have discussed it. We want to contribute $120,000 towards your wedding, just like we promised when you were little. We're so happy for you. Love, Mom." I stared at that email, my heart filled with hope. Maybe I'd been wrong all these years. Maybe they did value me as much as Jake. But that hope didn't last long. A week after the engagement, I met with my best friend, Lily. We've been friends since college, and she's now one of the most sought-after wedding planners in the Bay Area. I'd lent her $20,000 when she was starting her business, and now I called in that favor. "Remember when I lent you that money?" I asked over lunch at a trendy cafe. Lily laughed and set down her glass of iced tea. "Bonnie, you gave me a lifeline. That wasn't a loan, it was a gift. I've been waiting for this moment for years. Tell me about your dream wedding." I told her about the vision Lucas and I had. We wanted an intimate, elegant, child-free wedding with about 90 guests. An outdoor ceremony at a vineyard in Napa where Lucas's family had connections. Lily nodded. Child-free is a smart choice. Nothing ruins a ceremony like a crying child during the vows. But then she hesitated. "Your family is pretty traditional, right? That might be an issue." I waved my hand. "They'll understand. Mom already emailed about contributing to the budget." Lily looked at me with a sympathetic expression. "Bonnie, I've been doing this for 10 years. Traditional families and child-free weddings usually don't mix well." I should have listened to her. A few days later, Dad called and invited us over for dinner. "Come on Sunday. Your mom's making your favorite lasagna, and we can discuss the wedding plans." Lucas and I drove to my parents' house. The dining room was just as I remembered it, with the same old wallpaper and the framed photos of Jake's achievements on the wall. After dinner, Dad cleared his throat and pulled out a folded piece of paper from his pocket. "We've given this a lot of thought," he said, "and we've come up with some guidelines for the wedding." "Guidelines?" I asked, my heart sinking. Dad smoothed the paper on the table. "Rule 1. All family members must be invited from both sides. That means your great Aunt Mildred, your cousin Tom's kids, everyone. Rule 2. No child, free wedding. Children are part of the family. Rule 3. The wedding must be local. No destination weddings. Rule 4. We have final approval over the guest list. Rule 5. The ceremony will be at the local church where your mom and I got married." He looked up as if he'd just presented a perfectly reasonable plan. Mom nodded in agreement. "These are the same rules Jake followed. It's only fair." I looked at the list in disbelief. There would be over 250 guests, a church I hadn't attended in years, and every relative I'd tried to avoid. "If I don't agree?" I asked quietly. Dad's expression didn't change. "Then you pay for yourself." I tried to reason with him. "Dad, the child-free policy isn't about excluding anyone. Lucas's niece disrupted a friend's wedding last year. We just want to avoid that." Dad just stared at me. "Children are family." I try to find a compromise. "What if children can come to the reception but not the ceremony?"
He shook his head. "No."
Lucas squeezed my knee under the table, a silent warning. I tried again. 250 people is a lot. What if we just invite immediate family and close friends, maybe 120? Mom let out a sharp laugh. 120? Bonnie, I've already told Aunt Mildred, Uncle Tom, and everyone else. They're expecting invitations. I stared at her in shock. "You invited people to my wedding without asking me?" She looked a bit uncomfortable. "Well, when you announced the engagement, people asked." I couldn't just say nothing. Dad cut in. "They'll be receiving invitations. That's not negotiable." I sat back in my chair, feeling defeated. My mother was already making plans without consulting me, and my father had set down strict rules for my wedding. That night, on the drive home, I called Jake. "Can you talk to them? Maybe if you explain that child-free weddings are normal now, they'll listen." Jake sighed. I could hear the TV in the background. "Bonnie, you know how they are. They're set in their ways." I pleaded. "But they respect you. If you told them." He hesitated. "Look, you know Mom and Dad had a separate fund for me, right? Since I was a kid, there was never any question about what kind of wedding I'd have." I gripped the phone tightly. "What do you mean, a separate fund?" There was a long pause. "Mom told me years ago. Dad set up an investment account for me when I was born for things like a house down payment and my wedding. And for you. I don't know, Bonnie. Dad always thought you'd marry someone who'd take care of that stuff, that the husband's family would pay for the wedding." The rain started to pour outside, and Lucas looked at me with concern. "So, there was never a fund for me. The $120,000 Mom promised was just a lie." The next day, Dad called again. "I need your decision, Bonnie. The rules stand. Take them or leave them." I was at my desk, looking out at the city. "Did you give Jake these same rules? Did you require him to invite 250 people and threaten to withdraw funding if he didn't comply?" Dad's voice went cold. "Jake understood family values. You're marrying into another family now. The Thompsons will be your family." I finally realized the truth. Because I'm the daughter, I'm worth less. "I understand, Dad," I said. "I'll fund it myself." And I hung up. Lucas found me on the couch that evening, lost in thought. He sat beside me, putting his arm around me. "They never planned to help you," I said, my voice breaking. "It was always about control." Lucas pulled me closer. "Then we'll do this ourselves. We don't need their money. We have each other." The next morning, Lucas's mother, Margaret, called. "I heard what happened," she said. "When I got married, my parents disapproved. They thought I was marrying beneath me. They refused to contribute to the wedding. But Lucas's grandmother gave us $15,000. She said, 'Love doesn't come with conditions.' Bonnie, I'd like to contribute $60,000 to your wedding. No conditions, no rules. You're family now." I was speechless. Margaret, I can't. She interrupted me. You can and you will. I had someone do this for me, and now I'm doing it for you. Please let me. A week later, a check arrived with a note that said, "Love doesn't come with conditions. Welcome to the family, sweetheart." I cried for hours, but this time, they were happy tears. As the wedding planning continued, my family started to cause more trouble. Aunt Mildred called, saying, "Your mother says you're not inviting family to the wedding. That can't be right." Uncle Tom said, "I heard you're doing some exclusive thing. What's this about no kids?" My phone was constantly buzzing with calls and texts from relatives I hardly knew. They all said the same thing. How could you do this to your parents? Then Mom posted on Facebook. It breaks my heart when children forget all the sacrifices their parents have made. We've given everything, and this is how we're repaid. Prayers appreciated. Within an hour, there were dozens of comments from relatives offering sympathy. Mom had turned my wedding into a public referendum on my character. Nathan found me scrolling through the comments late at night. "Turn it off," he said gently. "They're just trying to make themselves look like victims. This isn't about you." I knew he was right, but it still hurt. One day, Mom showed up at my office. I was in a meeting when my assistant knocked on the door. "There's a woman at the reception. She says she's your mother, and she's making a scene." I excused myself and went to the lobby. Mom was standing there, holding a tissue, with mascara running down her cheeks. 3 of my colleagues were watching. "Mom, what are you doing here?" I asked. She grabbed my arm. "We need to talk. You need to change your mind. Your father can't sleep, and I can't eat. You're tearing the family apart." I tried to stay calm. "Mom, you posted about me on Facebook and called all my relatives. You left me no choice." Her voice rose. "You're embarrassing us. Everyone knows about this ridiculous child-free rule." I looked at her. "Then tell them the truth. Tell them you offered me conditional money and a list of demands, and I declined." She narrowed her eyes. "That's a very selfish way to look at it." I opened the door to the conference room. "Please leave. I won't discuss this at my workplace." She gathered her things and said, "You'll regret this, Bonnie. Mark my words." A few days later, I received an email from Dad. The subject was "Final Words." It was a long email listing all the sacrifices they'd made for me, like buying me a new bike when I was a kid and paying for my college textbooks. The final paragraph said, "You've made your choice. You've chosen Lucas and his wealthy family over the people who raised you. If you proceed with this wedding without following our conditions, we will not attend, and you can forget about being part of this family." I read it twice, then forwarded it to Lucas and his friend, Alex, a family law attorney. Alex said, "Keep this. You might not need it for legal reasons, but documentation matters." That night, Lucas held me as I stared at the ceiling. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I want to have our wedding our way," I said. "And I want to stop pretending they'll ever change." At 2 a.m., I wrote a response. "Dad, I've read your email. I understand your position, but I will not abandon my boundaries. The wedding will proceed as planned. You and Mom are welcome to attend as guests, but there will be no special roles. I hope you'll reconsider, but I won't beg. Love, Bonnie." His response came 10 minutes later. "If we can't be treated as your parents, we won't be there. This is your choice." I closed my laptop. I'd drawn a line, and they'd walked away. The weeks leading up to the wedding were the hardest. I had doubts. What if I was wrong? What if I was destroying my family over a guest list? I lost weight, and Lucas tried to take care of me. One day, Jake texted me, "Can we meet for coffee? I want to help." I almost said no, but I still hoped he could be the bridge between us. We met at a local cafe. Jake looked tired, his usual confident demeanor gone. "Bonnie, Mom and Dad are really hurting. They feel like you've abandoned them," he said. "Did they send you here?" I asked. He didn't answer, which was answer enough. "Jake, I didn't abandon anyone. Dad sent me an email saying I'm out of the family if I don't follow their rules. I invited them as guests, and they refused." He fidgeted with his coffee cup. "Maybe you could just give a little. You know how they are. They're old-fashioned." I leaned forward. Jake, when you got married, did they give you a list of requirements? Did they threaten to withdraw funding if you didn't comply?
He looked away. No, exactly.
Because you're the son, and I'm just the daughter who's supposed to be grateful for whatever they give me. He shifted uncomfortably. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's true. He finished his coffee in silence. As he stood up to leave, he said, I hope you know what you're doing, Bonnie. Once you burn this bridge, there's no going back. I watched him walk away. The bridge was already burning. The day before the rehearsal dinner, Margaret called. I heard you're having a hard time. When I married against my parents' wishes, I lost them for 2 years. But I realized I wasn't rejecting them. They were rejecting me for making my own choice. You're not destroying anything, Bonnie. You're just standing up for yourself. Her words gave me the strength I needed. Lily spread out the final wedding plans on the table. The venue was a beautiful private vineyard in Napa with rolling hills and a view of the valley. The guest list was carefully curated, with 90 people who truly mattered to us. The budget was $100,000, with $40,000 from Lucas and me and $60,000 from Margaret. Lily asked, What about your family? Any changes? I shook my head. They made their choice. Lily made a note. I'll have security on standby, just in case. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be an intimate gathering of close friends and family. But when I saw my parents walk through the door, my heart stopped. Mom was wearing her best dress, and Dad had on a suit. They looked out of place as the hostess looked at them in confusion. I'm the mother of the bride, Mom said. There must be some mistake. Lucas's hand tightened on my arm. I walked over to them. Mom, Dad, you weren't on the guest list for tonight. Mom's voice trembled. We're your parents. We have every right to be here. We flew all the way here to support you. Lily stepped forward. Ma'am, sir, could we talk privately? Dad scowled. We don't need to talk privately. We need to be at our daughter's event. Margaret rose from her seat and walked over. Henry, Grace, perhaps we could discuss this in the private dining room. I don't want this to become a scene. Dad looked at Margaret, with her elegant dress and confident demeanor, and some of his bluster faded.
Fine.
Let's talk. In the private dining room, we sat down.
Dad spoke first.
We came to support our daughter. I looked at him. You came uninvited, after sending me an email saying you'd cut me off if I didn't follow your conditions. He went pale. Mom cut in. We were hurt. We said things we didn't mean. I asked, then why didn't you apologize? Why did you post about me on Facebook and call all my relatives? There was a long silence. Margaret spoke gently. I understand this is hard for you. Letting go of control over your children is difficult. But what you've done, setting conditions and shaming